Hello, I'm Richard Hooper and this is SatTV Week. Now I'm here on the Isle of Man where I'm pleased to be joined by Chris Stott of MANSAT. Chris, we've spoken before, but the Isle of Man's space sector, it's going places.
Well, thank you, Richard, and thank you for having us today. And yes, I hope so. Well, you know, one small step for man, so to speak. But we've grown. 12 years in, 37 companies, 74 employed in the industry, about $2.65 billion of annual revenues going through the Isle of Man economy with space. Satellites, Isle of Man satellites providing broadband to 400 million people in North America, actually all around the world. For what started as an idea, we hope it's growing. We hope we're giving a good offering to the industry and we're meeting their needs and sort of helping at the same time.
Now it's more than just orbital filings, which is where it started, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Well, that's it. Orbital filings was the key. It's the tiny pebble dropped into the pond and all the ripples that come off that. That's where we're seeing growth in the island at the moment. Yep, MANSAT, we started with orbital filing. And it soon became apparent to us when we were talking to our clients and talking to potential clients. We'd say, would you need any help with orbital filings? Can we help you make them? How does it work? And they'd all turn to us and say, well, thank you, Chris, that's really great. But we have the filings that we need. However, we have a joint venture, we have a new company starting, we have a new program starting. Actually, we need to consolidate some costs, some revenues from different, we're growing, we're globalizing. And we're finding some issues there. Could the Isle of Man help us with this? And that's when we realized, and we realized when we started MANSAT, and that's when they really started to kick into play, that the other advantages of the Isle of Man, that finance economy that we have, the political stability, the regulatory stability, the financial stability, was of real interest to an industry as it globalized and commercialized and became a sort of safe haven, a sort of anchor of sanity in a world gone mad, where people could actually come and do far more than orbital filing. They could do the procurement, leasing, financing, insurance of all of their space assets.
Now, how supportive has the Isle of Man government been?
Very supportive. I'd say, honestly, at first, when we first came to them with the concept of doing space, there were a few raised eyebrows. But the more we talked to some of the leading politicians and civil servants, the more we sort of convinced them to give MANSAT a try. And that's where the sort of public-private partnership came from. It was very much a no-risk approach for the Isle of Man government. Okay, we think Chris sees something in space. Let Chris put together a company, take all the risk, do all the financing, pay all the costs, pay a license fee and take it from there. What happens if it fails? Nothing. But then as we grew, back in sort of 2003, 2004, when we started to see some of the explosive growth, that's when we went back to government and said, look, there really is something here. We're not saying there is, we're not thinking there is, we're not hoping there is. Here's the facts. And that's when they turned around and said, okay, we'll back this a bit more. And they created the Office of Space Commerce. It was with the Treasury originally. It's now with the Department of Economic Development. And then that's where Space Isle came from. So we actually, they sort of funded, and we worked very close as a team to put together the branding for the Isle of Man in space and to sort of step out into the satellite industry, into the new space industry, into space education as a real focus for us too, to try and sort of do the right thing and push the Isle of Man into the satellite industry. But it's not so much a technology push, it's more of a demand pull for us. Because we would turn around and say, working with the International Space University, the Institute of Space Commerce and others, we would look at this and say, okay, there's not that much difference between, say, a Boeing 777 aircraft or an Airbus 380 and a liquid natural gas carrier and a satellite. Now, to us in the industry, we're like, hang on, hit the brakes. Of course there's a difference. But when you look at the balance sheet, there's not that much difference. Approximate costs, approximate insurance, approximate marketplace, international commerce. And we said, this is the idea we originally had back at ISU back in '96. It's like, why can't everything we do on the Isle of Man just key right into, perfectly timed, into this commercialization and growth of the satellite industry? When you're looking to consolidate your costs, when you're looking at your asset base, when you're looking at how do I finance this, how do I insure this? Well, I realized rather than reinvent the wheel's already here and it's spinning really fast. Let's just apply that. So the spacecraft engineering, your science behind what you're doing in space is there already. Let's take that solid foundation and put it financially and sort of build that underneath the space companies and really help that way.
I'm actually holding here a report that's been carried out by Futron. It's quite an interesting report because you score very highly against your peers. But it does actually highlight some weaknesses in the plan.
Yeah.
And one of those is that the space industry is very reliant on people like you and MANSAT. And because it's such a small community, it's heavily reliant on you. I mean, how do you combat that as you move forward?
It's interesting being a weakness. It's, what you would hopefully see as a strength, traditional SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. Absolutely, your strengths are your weaknesses. And they're quite right. It is a weakness, being dependent upon myself. And that's something that's always been in the back of my mind, and always something that we've tried to mitigate against by growing that larger industry. But what we've tried to do to mitigate the weakness, is what I've consciously tried to do is bring more and more and more people into the island. Everyone from ISU with their campus here, all the way through to the different companies, and pushing the Isle of Man in this regard. Originally we had the Space Industry Group, which we founded on the island, which is a precursor to the Society of Satellite Professionals International, to the SSPI group. And we did that purely, again, what happens when the big red bus comes? Well, let's get more and more people involved. And that in itself got to critical mass, and then we flipped that into the local chapter of the SSPI, which has been really good and really helpful.
But this is not the only weakness that the report highlights. There's a couple of other areas, and one of those is the success that the Isle of Man space sector is showing is not really transferring into generation of jobs. And the second one is that the Isle of Man government itself is criticised for not really putting its message across as strongly as it should be doing. I mean, what do you say about those two things?
Both very valid criticisms, absolutely. Like I said, we started work in 2000, here in 2012. Right now, we have 74 people working in the space industry, probably about 20 full-time equivalents, the rest coming in and out. And in 2000, there was just one, just me. But I think what you're seeing is very valid criticism, and we're constantly knocking ourselves, because it's constantly trying to improve ourselves. You're seeing that transformation, that ski, I'll do it this way, that ski slope, where you all of a sudden you get to that point on the chart where you get explosive growth. And what you're starting with, first just me, then others at MANSAT, then people in the accounting and legal firms, then people in the banks, then the manufacturing crowd. We realized they were there, we started talking, more things happened there. And then we kind of grew on Space Isle. And now we're getting more corporate service providers, more banks, more lawyers. We're starting to get more satellite companies, put people here on the Isle of Man. So you're seeing an anticipation of the need. You're seeing a very valid criticism saying, we need more jobs. Yes, we do. What was originally purely a financial consideration is now also, hey, we need people to fulfill these roles on the Isle of Man. So that's why we go out and we support space education. We were trying to do the ISU thing. It's not happening as quickly as we would like, no. But with the global economy, the shape it's in, I think we're still trying really hard.
Yeah.
But we are seeing growth. It's just not as fast as we would like it.
Now, you've told us where it started and where we are now. Where's it going?
If I was to sit there and think about the future and what I hope to happen in the future, anything for the next 5 to 10 years, I just want it to be an automatic reaction in every boardroom, every CFO, CEO, general counsel, every entrepreneur starting a new company in the industry. And they just automatically think, I'd love it if they just automatically put the Isle of Man for their jurisdiction. Of course we're going to have a new venture here. Where are we putting it? Of course we put it in the Isle of Man. The Isle of Man's the first choice. But we've got to keep competing for that business. We can't rest on our laurels. We've got to constantly focus on that. I'd love that to be there. I'd love more jobs here. I think more jobs are coming. I'd love more jobs to be here. I'd love to grow that industry, to sort of see that work. I would love to see 100, 200, 300 years from now, people looking back and saying, wow, the Isle of Man really did the right thing. These people really had an impact. They've made the future of the human race a better place.
Chris, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you, Richard, for having me.